All right, Karen, anytime you're ready.
I am ready.
All right, well, AT&T says it is 9 o'clock, so we'll open this board meeting for June 16th. And we have all three commissioners. We got two of us remote, one in the meeting room. With that, and then we have Keith and Karen in the meeting room also. So with that, if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The phones are open. Everybody should be able to see the phone number, 546-5859. This is public comment only. It's not a discussion line. So the phones are open and you'll be opened as they are received. So with that, we'll move right on to composition review for planning and building positions. Carly, are you on?
I am. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. This request I would characterize as somewhat unfinished business from the countywide compensation study that was implemented in 2019. When we did the review of all the county positions, the planning and building department was very much in transition. Part of that time we have the previous director, and then no director, and then Derek came into position towards the tail end of that study and really hadn't had a chance to define what the needs were. Last year we took a look at the planning division of that department and got our needs taken care of there. And so this package today is looking at the administrative division of that office and the needs of those positions. Beyond that, I don't have a whole lot to add beyond what was in the package, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I know I heard Derek on the line as well.
I'm sure everybody got a copy of the ASR and the resolution. Do we have some comments, questions? I'm not hearing any comments or questions. We do have a resolution in front of us, 2020-133. While I'm waiting for that, Karen, that YouTube has not shown up.
Mark just verified that it was running. So did it stop? Can I ask Jennifer?
Karen, I can still see it streaming.
Yeah, Karen, this is Matt Mahoney, and I can still see it streaming.
This is Matt Mahoney, and I can still see it streaming.
Matt, you'll need to turn off your back feed there.
Thanks.
Okay.
There it comes. I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right. There it comes. I'm sorry.
No problem.
All right. There it comes. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. All right. There it comes. I'm sorry. Turn off the other. Yeah. Turn off the speaker.
Commissioner Cook, you'll need to turn off your computer speaker.
Coming through this one. You're right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You're good.
All right. Let's get back to resolution 2020-133, please.
Yes, I have a couple questions on this, Chairman. It says it's all covered in the intra-budget transfers from non-salary lines and budgets. So they're just going to transfer from non-salary to salary to cover this? Carly?
Correct.
For 2020, that's correct.
Okay. And are we meeting our obligations in this area right now with planning and building? Are we behind? Are we getting everything accomplished that we need to be accomplished in this? I mean, to me, this really is sort of out of line with where we're at right now as a county, as far as we're not meeting the obligations to our constituents in the county due to this COVID crisis. And I'm wondering if this is the time to be doing this, or maybe we should wait until we're up to full capacity and getting it done for the county, the people, the residents, the people that are looking for the, are we behind it all on our planning and building obligations?
Derek, do you want to respond to that?
Derek on the phone?
He was earlier. Derek, you maybe have to unmute yourself. While we're waiting, if I may respond to that.
Sure.
Directly, Commissioner. We are generally current on all of the applications and things that have come through our planning building department, but we are well aware that once, as the economy opens up, there's a flood of applications that will be coming forward, and it's going to be essential. This is the staff that provides the intake of those documents, preliminary review before they go to our planners, to make sure the administrative items are checked off and cleared and done. And as a matter of equity for those positions, that was the work that HR's office did, was to make sure that they're classified appropriately and that they are within the appropriate pay scale for those requisite job duties.
Okay. And it is coming from the internal budget, so it's no increase to our budget.
Correct. It will be built into the base for 2021, but yeah, for 2020, they're not asking for additional funds.
Sorry, I lost funding, or I lost contact.
Sorry, I lost funding.
Derek, please turn off your speakers while you're.
My speakers. All right. Computer speaker. How's that?
Thank you.
All right. I apologize for that. Yeah, I lost that. And yes, we are meeting our obligations regarding performance. We are doing what we can do to keep things. We are still currently on track budget-wise, even with those changes. Some of those came from the fact of, for this year, the fact that we did not have some meetings, and there's others, and obviously travel's greatly diminished, so that's where we were finding those revenues and for this 2020. Is that coming through at all?
Yes.
Yep.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Peck. Move for approval of Resolution 2020-133 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. No further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you, Carly.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
So that brings us to office business. We have some bills to pay.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. First item is fund expenditures. This is an item that you preliminarily approved on June 8th, 2020 for ratification by the board today. I would move for approval and ratification of fund expenditures in the total amount of $165,062.32. Note this has been reviewed and signed off by the auditor and the second member of the auditor's office.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And Mr. Chairman, More currently, we have fund expenditures dated for today, June 16th. I move for approval of these fund expenditures as presented in a total amount of $277,248.74. Note that this has been reviewed and signed off by 2 members of the auditor's office as well as the county administrator.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And lastly, Mr. Chairman, third and final item, also dated June 16, 2020. This is salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll. Move for approval as presented in a total amount of $983,784.39. And note that this has been reviewed and signed off by 2 members of the auditor's office.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that was third and final, thank you. That will move us on to approval of consent agenda. We have 2 items this morning. Appointment of Jamie Rasmussen to workforce and Lisa New Copier for district court.
Mr. Chairman, move for approval of consent agenda as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That leads us right down to Keith already. So the administration office.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. For the benefit primarily of the public, I believe the commissioners are pretty much aware of what's transpired with the COVID-19 response. Remove my mask here. Last week, we submitted a application to the State Department of Health to move Franklin County from phase 1 to phase 2. That has been received by the Department of Health. There have been a number of discussions and meetings between the Benton Franklin Health District and the state regarding that application. It is still in a review status. It's a pending status, meaning that the State Department of Health has not made a decision to either approve or to make a modified approval to that request. So we are still in a somewhat of a waiting status for the state to act. As you're well aware, over the past week, we've had an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in Franklin County. That has obviously generated some concern at both the local and state level regarding whether the county is truly ready to move to phase 2. We're seeing increases in other parts of the state, and the governor and Secretary of Health have expressed some concern about those parts of the state as well, either having to move back into an earlier phase or further restrict activity within those counties. So it is a fluid position. I do not have an estimated time for a decision. We had hoped to have heard something with a little more finality yesterday. That did not take place. We are kind of at the mercy of the State Department of Health to issue some guidance. The Benton Franklin Health District is meeting regularly to provide us updated information the best that they can, and the latest statistical information is located on their website if you or any of the members of the public wish to see that. So beyond that, I don't have a lot to include on the COVID-19 update. We're still just, as I said, kind of in a wait status. I've got some other items that are somewhat related to that, but I maybe ought to stop and pause for questions from the board at this juncture.
Keith, I have a few questions here. There was a question asked yesterday during the meeting, was an excellent question. And that was the number of tests that have been performed compared to the number of people that have been deemed to be positive for COVID. And there was no answer from our Board of Health. They don't know how many tests have been performed compared to the amount of people. And I think that is an injustice to our county, because if there is 100 tests given out, that's one thing. If there's 1,000 tests given out, there's another. If there's 10,000, that is incredibly a small percentage. Now, if we don't know the number of tests, how are we basing the results? That, first of all, that's my first point. Second point is with a 63% accuracy, which was given to us at the questioning prior meetings of the health board, a 63% accuracy of the test, how can we let this happen to our county when there's only a 63% accuracy of the test and there's some false positives that are been given out? And now we're going to go with, case identity and then, contact tracing. And so what we're going to do is if it's a false positive, we're going to label that person. We're going to get 48 hours of prior contact with people. And then all those people have to be isolated for 14 days. How are we allowing this to happen to our county?
Commissioner, I don't pretend to be an expert on the matter. That's the purpose for having a public health agency. I think clearly they are understanding of the fact that the mathematical calculation of the number of tests and the accuracy of those tests is left up to those medical experts. I do echo the concerns. They're fair questions, they're legitimate questions, and they're questions that really need to be asked of the medical experts who are making the decisions in Olympia.
And then the last question that was poised at the meeting over the phone was the fact that we're taking into account of the state facility up in Connell that has a high infection rate, and we're taking responsibility for those people that are testing positive when we have no jurisdiction over that state facility.
Yeah, the representations I've heard from the state is that they're recognizing that it is an imperfect calculation, but because it's currently calculated based on where those residents reside, they happen to be in Franklin County, even though they are essentially wards of the state at this point. So that does hurt us. I would say we have to be careful in that a lot of those COVID cases that have occurred at the Coyote Ridge Correctional Facility not only include inmates, but include staff,
guards,
guards that actually do live in Franklin County. So it's difficult to separate that out, but I think that's a fair concern, and it's my understanding that the state is taking that into some consideration in their analysis of our application. I would add that starting tomorrow, we are opening up some free testing sites in both Benton and Franklin counties at the Toyota Center and the Hapo Center that will allow for more testing of our public to take place. That's been one of the areas where we have fallen short. As you mentioned, we don't have a good idea of what the denominator in the calculation is. However, this will allow many more of our citizens to be actually tested, those that have concerns that think they may have been exposed.
Mr. Chairman, Brad Peck.
Yes.
First off, thank you to Commissioner Didier for acknowledging my question yesterday at the board meeting about the number of tests administered. I have been pressing the Board of Health for a couple of weeks now on the notion of only reporting positive tests and the fact that without a baseline for number of tests administered, there's no way to determine a trend whether our case counts are really going up or going down. The raw number of cases may go up, but the trend may be going down, in which case they could be making exactly the wrong decisions. I was told that previously they had been collecting the test results, positive or negative, but had not been collecting data on the number of tests administered. And in a conversation with the executive director there, I think I made the point pretty forcefully that they needed to immediately start collecting data on number of tests administered so we can get real trend lines. I bring that up because for us to look at trend data based on testing over the last 30, 60, 90 days is going to be impossible because those data were never collected.
but as I'm being told, they are being collected now. With respect to the accuracy of the testing had previously been reported at around 63%. I'm now told by Dr. Person is closer to 70%, and that's only for locally derived tests. Ones that are administered locally but shipped to a lab back east are at about 98% accuracy. I have a question in with them that I've not gotten the answer to, which is, out of every 100 tests, how many are being processed locally and how many are going to the lab back east? Obviously, with the difference between 70% accurate and 98% accurate, we need to know that as well. As for the Connell situation, remember that we're running against state criteria on a 14-day window, and the numbers in Connell, if they haven't already, will soon fall off of that 14-day calendar. Now, that doesn't mean that people forget it or overlook it, but because the 25-a-day measurement is against our 14-day running cumulative, those won't be counted in those calculations. But I agree with everything that's been said already, which is we need to consider not so much the numbers there, but the fact that the majority of those positive tests are people who are incarcerated, unless the governor decides to turn them loose on our streets, as he has in other cases. They will remain there. It's the people who are staff that are moving to and from the community that I think are at greatest risk of spreading the virus. The increase in testing is a result of finally getting the kits and the materials and the funding to be able to do more tests. Thank you.
Any further for Keith?
Yes, I do have a letter that was received. It's essentially a public comment that I need to read into the record just for public comment. It says, "Dear Commissioners, thank you for inviting public comment, and to each commissioner, thank you for your role in public service. My comments to this body are in response to a discussed hiring freeze for our health district as reported by Annette Carey in her May 19th Tri-Cities Herald article. I take aim at no one for seeking and encouraging fiscal responsibility in the public trust. I safely speak for my household in urging the board toward foresight. I do not believe COVID-19 to be an inherently political issue. It shouldn't. Nor do I think we should be trapped into believing that the necessity of public health and safety challenges during a global pandemic are at odds with economic progress. I recognize the tension that exists and ask the board to find solutions which increase public health outcomes and support economic progress. These have been unprecedented times and are deserving of the resources needed to maximize success. It would be a disservice to our public institutions if, in creating them, we willingly malnourish them into failure when they are needed most. Our collective understanding of COVID-19 is evolving, and my hope is that we use the days ahead to stay on top of declining cases through contact tracing and other measures. Of all the purported distrust in our system of government, the potential for allowing such thinking to contaminate our view of public health endeavors, especially at this time, will only make it more challenging if conditions worsen or a greater challenge emerges. We need trust and reliability. I trust our health district to work as it has to promote, nurture, and enforce reasonable health protections. Local government can have a significant impact in a global cause. And perhaps selfishly, I especially want the health district where I live to fulfill its purpose in a timely, accurate, and efficient manner. The demands on our health district have increased, and I support providing it with the needed personnel to achieve success. To be clear, I have no issue paying more in taxes if this is a tax concern. If the money is needed and wisely spent, please know I support the work of our health district. No less important, I have growing concerns about the attention given to some of the board members' public and overt sentiments toward other elected officials in our state government. I offer no critique to any particular board member's philosophical concerns over the exercise and limits of personal liberties during this unique time. In fact, there likely exists alignment with my own. The rhetoric most highlighted in the public sphere, however, is concerning to me, and I ask that cooler heads prevail for the sake of national unity and civility. There are more civil and respectful ways of resolving grievances within our state system without conflating them with public health challenges and partisan alliances. Sincerely, Jason Schlegel, Pasco, Washington. I should also point out that we recently received a essentially a public comment. It was not identified as to who the writer was, but they expressed concerns over a essentially private event that's being organized on the July 4th weekend in Basin City that would include a parade and rodeo, and they expressed their concern that this may not be in conformity with the state standards regarding the phased reopening of state government. And so they wrote to the county commissioners to oppose that event. That's most of what I have for administrative office business. I would ask the board to make sure that you have reviewed the item that's coming before you next week. It's a new speed ordinance, or an updated speed ordinance that's been presented by Public Works. We would like to have those questions addressed in advance of the meeting so that any questions that you may have can be updated in the document before the board takes action. So that has been emailed to you, and I would encourage you to take a look at that in advance of the meeting. With that, Commissioner, it looks like I have a couple of callers on the line awaiting public comment.
All right, thank you.
Yes, they're coming on the phone. Good morning. Is this Mr. Simmons?
Yes, this is. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you. Steve, go ahead.
So I just wanted to keep my comments really brief. I wanted to make a comment about our county's COVID-19 response. Just really quick, in my comments, I just wanted to say, Abraham Lincoln, when he gave the Gettysburg Address, he said that government of the people, by the people, for the people. And one of the things is, we have our American government is a federal one, which means that, that authority and jurisdiction are divided among our national, state, and local governments. I believe that the current method that our governor has set forth, in response to this COVID-19 crisis, has failed our county and our state. I really believe it does. And I believe that the governor's responsibility is to do what concerns the state, but the county's responsibility is to do what concerns me. And I want to see our county government utilized as it was intended to be utilized. I don't think the emergency orders, this is just my personal opinion, but I don't think the emergency orders really apply to this pandemic anymore. I don't see any infrastructure destruction. I don't see any earthquakes. I don't see any invasions, any mass destruction. I do see a service and lifestyle pandemic. And so I really want to urge you as the commissioners in our county, who are best suited to decide how to protect the public and our business interests in our county. And I think really quickly, some of those ways that could happen, if the state government would allow the counties to have control, and I would urge you to fight for that control, would be, to receive input from different types of businesses on how they can safely conduct business. Receive input from the public on how they think that that society could function in our county safely. Also receive input from our municipalities, from Pasco, from all these other towns that may have ideas. Utilize the local health department. It was supposed to be intended to be used. The reason I think this is so important and why I really want to bring this out today is because, we hear about these case counts going up and stuff like that, and we hear about how we have to apply to these phases. But our situation, the governor doesn't understand our specific situation here in the state. And I think the best way to move forward is if the county is able to make those decisions for its unique situation, then that's the best way. So I guess, some of the results that would come out of that would be that, like for instance, I hear a lot of issues about wearing masks, and things that we need to do in order to protect the public. And I think the public would be very willing, when people feel like they are the ones making the decision, they are very willing to do those things. I think our government was intended to function that way. I think if you as commissioners were able to have the control and have the public and businesses involved in deciding what methods we wanted to implement, how to open our businesses to protect the public, then those methods would be accepted more by the people in this county, by the citizens. And that we would also rally behind those efforts to protect not only ourselves, the public, and how, be able to get our lives back to normal. So I just wanted to really encourage you that in your dealings with the state and stuff like that, that you may recognize that there's a silent majority, I think, of people that really want to see the county have the control to deal with the unique situation of this state. And that's really all I want to say. I don't think the prescribed method of applying for phases and all this stuff is really helping our state. In fact, I think it's actually harming the citizens in this county. It's harming the citizens of the state. And I think there's ways in which we can implement implement things that will better serve the interests, especially in our area. And I just want to promote that and let you guys know that I think that's how people in the public are feeling.
All right. Well, thank you for your comments.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate all you're doing for us.
Get through the hassle and move on. We'll waste a bunch of time fighting the problem.
Hey, Derek, can I ask you to mute your phone?
Oh.
We do have one more caller on the line.
Okay, Keith.
Good morning. Is this Luanda?
Yes, it is.
Good morning.
Hey, first of all, I had been listening to the meeting and the comments, and my comments are having to do with the COVID response and our local and state health department. I had heard that no data was collected on past testing, and so that is gone. That's actually not true. You can go back to all the local labs, any labs that have it, and get numbers from them. They keep their data. That data isn't burned once the dates have passed. As far as the prison goes, I know that it is still spreading there. I just heard on the news yesterday that now half of the prison is in quarantine, so those numbers will not be falling off. Also, I have a real problem with the health board website because they do not give complete data. They don't tell us where the different places are that, they give a few numbers in the healthcare and in the nursing homes, but they don't have Tyson Foods on there anymore. They don't have any of the local places that they are getting them. And I think that's really, really important because if you have a hairdresser closed in Pasco that none of those people have ever gone to, that person is being punished, that business is, for the behaviors and actions of others. And I know just from working in the ag, my husband is a farmer and he works for Allied Potato, and there's a lot of workers that are in there, and we know that the rules and everything that have to be applied. And so many of them come to work together, and I understand they're trained to save on gas, but they don't come in full PPEs. They get in their PPEs once they get to work. They use social spread, extra cleaning measures, following all the rules, and then they leave. They take all their PPEs off and get back in their vehicles and leave again. And I know for a fact that from Tyson Foods, it was nursing home orderlies that are married to some people that work at Tyson Foods that it was spread from there. And I suppose that then they spread it to other family members that work at other agriculture and factories, food factory type processors. And so I think it's really important that we have all the data. All of the data has to be made public. All of the data has to be considered, where it's happening, how it's happening, And instead of punishing the public and the entire county for things that they have absolutely no control of, is not representing our county. It is representing the state and actually unelected healthcare people that have sometimes have underlying political, it's not that they're outwardly doing this for political reasons, but they come at it at a political all of a sudden I can't think of the word. Anyhow, so they're looking at it from their perspective, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think that we need to get more data, and we need to make the decisions from the data that we collect and not rely on the state telling us this phase 1, phase 2 thing. I wrote an email back in April. It didn't get read into any meetings, however, but I had written you all an email in talking about the fact that this is not going to do any good. Once the virus is out, it's out. And it's like catching a whisper in the wind. You can't do it. And so trying to do all these phases is just, it's an exercise in futility. You're not going to be able to get ahead. You're not going to be able to do it. Wouldn't it be better to highly recommend to the public of Franklin County, and hopefully then Benton County can do the same, but that if you have underlying health conditions, if you are over a certain age, a certain weight, that we highly recommend for your personal health that you use PPEs when you go out and extra cleaning measures. I think the stores are all doing their part. Everybody's doing their part, and everybody will do their part. Small business owners aren't fools, and they will do their part as well. But trying to lump all the people together for something that is uncontrollable, will never be controlled, and 2 years from now we'll still be doing the same thing. It's doing no good. Right. It's serving no one, and that is my voice. So thank you for hearing
your comments.
Thank you, Wanda. I have no other callers at this time, Commissioner.
Okay.
Commissioner Cook, just
no other,
like to add a couple of informational points, if I might.
Okay.
Hey, Commissioner Cook, may I interrupt?
I spoke.
I apologize for the interruption. We do have a member of the public who is in the meeting room that would like to speak. I feel obligated to point out for the record that would be out of order, considering that the public is prohibited from attending the meeting, but I will leave that to the discretion of the chair if you want to hear the comment.
If it's a short comment, I don't know how he got in there, he or she got in the meeting room, but
Mr. Dockstetter, if you come to the
Chairman,
microphone,
just
please.
For the record, I'm happy to hear the public comment, but we need to start following our own ordinance or resolution that we passed. We need to start following guidelines that we've all accepted. If we don't, we simply undermine our case with the state to reopen. Every time we demonstrate that we're not willing to follow the basics, at least the basics, we undermine Franklin County's ability to move forward and open. So there's a price for doing this.
got a comment, George?
Yes, I do. I got several of them. And I spent 14 months in a hellhole to preserve the right to petition the government. And if you guys aren't willing to come down here and be petitioned by the public, then I think you ought to turn in your damn resignations. I earned the right. I've been shot at and hit. I've been stabbed. I've been murdered. I spent more time in the DMZ than anybody else. And I'll guarantee you, I earned the right to come down here. I've been declared dead twice. And so governor does not scare me. He hasn't passed a law saying we can't meet. And if you guys are going to kowtow to some BS resolution instead of following the law, then that's fine. But I do have two comments. One is on the CARES money you gave to the health department. Why didn't you go out and buy brand new ambulances for all the districts here in Franklin County and spend the money for us instead of giving it to a bunch more bureaucrats? And the other comment is, why are we out there putting rumble strips on Glade Road North when our roads are falling apart? And we're out there putting rumble strips in to warn somebody they're running off the road. There isn't a farmer out there that hadn't spent a night at the Chinese gardens that hadn't run off the road a half a dozen times in their life. And I think that's a big waste of our public funds right now that could go to other uses, since you already robbed the road department of a couple $1 million. And that's all I've got to say. And I'll be back next week, so have the sheriff here. Thank you.
Anything further, Keith?
No, sir.
All right. Anything else from the good of the board?
I have a question, and it relates to these contact tracers. Now, I understand I was contacted by a concerned employee of the Franklin County courthouse that there was an email sent out, and I did not receive the email. So I don't even know exactly what it reads, but an email out there sequestering people to donate their time to be a contact tracer from our courthouse. Is this true?
Not exactly. Glad to clarify it. Yes, the health district has asked for the assistance from all the local jurisdictions, Benton, Franklin County, as well as the cities within those counties, to see if there are staff members available that are not fully essential with their current duties to be able to participate as contact tracers with the health district. They're not expected to be volunteers. They will continue to be paid their county salaries. But we have been looking for those that are available. We've identified a few in Franklin County to participate. It's not widespread. It's not mandatory. It's really left to the department heads to manage their workload to be able to help participate in this contact tracing effort. That's a key element of our application to move into phase 2.
So will these people be donating their time, or
No.
are they going to be compensated?
They will be compensated.
Are these people that are working for the courthouse now working at home?
Generally speaking, that's probably the case, that they're either telecommunicating or.
How do we know if they're fulfilling their duties with the courthouse responsibilities before they're being a contact tracer and getting more?
They have to receive the approval of their supervising authority to make sure that the work that is essential for the county is still being done.
So in essence, these people could be being a contact tracer on the county time if they have all their work accomplished and they still haven't worked the hours obligated to the courthouse. They could be doubly compensated then with being a contact tracer.
Well, they wouldn't be doubly compensated. They would receive their normal compensation, assuming they're working 40
What's a
hours.
contact tracer going to be paid?
If they're already an employee of the county, they will receive their normal compensation. This is
from the county though, the compensation from the county, but what about the compensation for being a contact tracer? What's that entitlement to them? What pay?
The health district is not providing additional compensation to those employees. Now, there would be CARES Act funding to reimburse the county for those hours that we pay for COVID-19 response. But so that the county is not subsidizing the effort per se, but that's where the funding of this will ultimately come from.
Could our CARES Act money be used to buy ambulances?
Possibly, if it's directly related to a COVID response. It's not intended to be supplemental funding for additional capital or equipment that we would not necessarily need in the event outside of COVID. But if there are increased numbers of ambulance cases as a result of the COVID-19 emergency, at least conceptually, that could be included.
Okay. Thank you, Keith.
Any further comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Brad Peck, just want to make a note. I don't know if you caught it earlier, but 10 days, 2 weeks ago, speaking with Jason Zakaria, Executive Director for Benton Franklin Health, I specifically asked them to update their webpage and very prominently on the opening page, put the latest COVID data and to be sure to include the number of tests administered and to break the data out by county so that people can see number of tests administered, number of positives, obviously number of negatives, and then if there are any that are uncertain, and to give that data clearly in a table form for both counties. The health department, in fairness to them, I think has been scrambling to just try and keep up with other duties. And on the communication side, frankly, I think that's not been as high a priority for them as it needs to be. So I've also encouraged them to use at least some CARES Act money to get some professional help to get these data collected and properly represented in an easy format right on the front of their website. And I'm waiting now to see if in fact that happens. Thanks.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.